conditions for U.S. corn and soybeans diverged this week. While corn lost a point in good to excellent categories, soybeans improved 2 points. The average ratings from the USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service are released weekly from May through harvest in the top 18 corn and soybean producing states. Economists Scott Irwin and Darrel Good from the University of Illinois have researched how those ratings could be used to potentially project final yields. Darrel joined us earlier this week to explain what the scoring indicates for yields in 2017, but we started by asking him to give more background about how the ratings are determined.
USDA has a number of crop observers in each state, and each observer is responsible for a particular geographic area. And so those observers make visual observations on a weekly basis in terms of the condition of the crop. The USDA provides them some guidelines in terms of what constitutes a very poor up to an excellent rating, and then each observer classifies a percentage of the crop in each of the categories from very poor up to excellent. Then USDA takes those observations and acreage weights them to give a state average condition rating and then a national average rating as well.
And the two categories that we're mostly focused on, Darrel, are the good and excellent, correct?
That's been our focus. I mean, since it's each category, there's 5 categories, and they have to add up to 100%, so that if you focus on the good and excellent, then kind of by default, you're also accounting for the poor and very poor as the residual that's not good and excellent. But our work is focused on just what percentage of the crop is rated good or excellent, and how that changes through the season.
So how valuable can these ratings be during the season?
Well, it varies a bit between corn and soybeans. We do know that the initial ratings for both crops are generally a bit on the high side. That is, crops generally always look good early in the season before weather has had a chance to take its toll on the crop. And then on average, ratings decline as you go to the final report of the year. So if you recognize that bias, if you will, and correct the weekly observations for that bias, I think the in-season ratings can be very useful, because there is a high correlation between final ratings and yield. So if you can correct in-season ratings for that bias, I think they become a very useful tool.
Is there a certain point in the season where the projection tightens up, that margin of error slims in corn and soybeans?
Yes, there is a very definite point. It's earlier for corn than soybeans, but typically by mid-July, the ratings on corn are pretty close to final ratings, again on average. We know that there's a lot of variation from year to year, and not surprisingly, that point is later in the season for soybeans. It's really into early August before that bias really points towards zero and the ratings really get close to the final rating.
Based on your calculations, Darrel, at this point in the season, with the crop condition ratings, where would you project final yields?
If we relied entirely on the crop conditions model, today's ratings would point to a U.S. average yield of 167.2 bushels and soybeans at 47.7. Again, I'm not sure I would ever rely 100% on crop conditions as a forming yield expectations, but as one component, I think it does give you a good barometer of where we are.
Do you see ways that these ratings, or how we use these ratings, can be improved?
I'm sure there are, and there are people that are tinkering with models that based on different weights of the different rating categories, and also adjusting those for maturity of the crop. We do know that, as I mentioned, by mid-July, the ratings on corn get awfully close to the final ratings, but we also recognize that maturity of the crop varies a lot in mid-July from year to year. So I think those ratings could be adjusted for maturity of the crop that might be able to get us a little closer on useful observations during the season. And there are folks that are tinkering with that, and and using that informing their own expectations.